Hello, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. I know some folks will still be rolling in. This session will be recorded just to start off. So if you're not able to attend the entire session, or we're kind of balancing this with other meetings and other things going on, no worries. This will be recorded and posted to YouTube in just a few days. So you are on the Knowledge Management Academy. And for this session, we are going to be covering one of our newest features that we released in May. And that's the ability to generate draft articles with Now Assist. So before I hop in, I do want to cover some housekeeping and kind of the flow of the webinar and how everything works. So let's go ahead and get into our safe harbor first off. If you've been on any of our webinars, you're so familiar with this slide, but basically, during Q&A or maybe even during the presentation, I may speak to some forward-looking features and statements for things that haven't been released in our product yet. So please make purchasing decisions based upon what's available today. So if I do, talk about anything that's coming out maybe in August or in future releases, do not make any purchasing decisions based upon that conversation. All right, and so for some housekeeping, for the Zoom webinar, if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A panel. This really helps me track where they're coming from. Zoom also sends me a really great report after the session of all the Q&A. So what I do is I look through all the questions. If I wasn't able to answer them live, this gives me a great report of what I need to answer. I type out all the answers for you, and then I put it in the comments underneath the event on the community. That way you always have the Q&A for reference and a resource, and you can also search the answers in the Q&A as well. So really helpful. If you just want, just to talk to other members on the Zoom, leave any kind of comments. We do have the chat available for you as well, but just try to keep the Q&A over in that section itself. And like I mentioned, this session is being recorded, and I will go through and edit it and post a PDF of what I'm showing today, the Q&A, and then also the recording of the session. It'll be available on YouTube. And then if you are looking for like the PDF, that'll be on the community. So underneath the Knowledge Management Product Hub on the community, there's an event. So you'll see all that there, and I'll post a link to that community before we end the session today. So just to introduce myself, my name is Ashley Snyder. I'm an outbound product manager here at ServiceNow. I've been with ServiceNow for about 2.5 years, working on different products such as Next Experience, Knowledge Management's been one, and I am transitioning over now to kind of our intelligent engine team. So looking at the Now LLM and our generative AI products. Prior to joining ServiceNow, I was also an admin and developer myself for different customers and partners. So really excited to kind of hop more into Gen AI. As far as the Knowledge Management Academy, you will see some changes in speakers. You will see changes in hosts, but no worries, you're in good hands. The Academy will continue on, and keep an eye out for future sessions after this one. All right, so today's goal, what I really want to look at is our capability that we released in May with the May store release, which is Now Assist in knowledge management. So the ability to use generative AI and use our large language models in order to generate an article from an incident case or a HR case. I think there's going to be a lot of questions from this session. This is kind of our first iteration of using generative AI with knowledge management. I know from conversations I've already had with customers and at K24, there's so much opportunity and so many things that y'all want to see out of this. So we're going to cover where we're at today, but I definitely, want to use the chat and even the Q&A. And this, you get a Zoom survey after as well. Please leave your feedback and things that you want to see. This feature is, again, it's just the first iteration. It's growing. There's so much opportunity for it. And we definitely want to get your feedback as customers, as knowledge managers, anyone who really uses knowledge management on what you'd like to see in it and where you'd like it to go. So I probably will pause during the session to answer questions. I want to keep it in context, and I'm going to leave a lot of time today to answer your questions as well. So if you have them there and I haven't answered them right away, no worries, I will get around to them within context. So I do see we already have some Q&A, and I think these next few slides are going to answer a lot of those questions. So I'm going to go ahead and cover first off what we released in May and kind of like what the capabilities are and the features. maybe even kind of like the dependencies and limitations that you may see. And then we'll get into a demo as well. So first off, kind of covering the benefits. So what do we really want to target for the first version of Now Assisted Knowledge Management? We really targeted the agent persona. So the ability for your agents to generate draft articles. A lot of the times what we've seen and a lot of the feedback that we've gotten from our customers is that, agents just don't have enough time to generate articles. They're working multiple incidents or cases at once. They may be answering the phone or picking up these cases from like a dashboard or even answering chat. And a lot of the time, documentation efforts and knowledge articles, while we want to get around to them, we understand the importance, just kind of fall to the end, right? And we just kind of take the work that needs to be done as far as incidents or cases and do that first. Whereas kind of this more proactive and knowledge management kind of activities, we just don't get around to it as agents. So what we wanted to do is really help agents to quickly generate articles while they are working on incidents, cases, or HR cases, really kind of speed up that time to creation. So it's not something that falls by the wayside. And we really wanted to help them kind of get over that blank slate issue. You may have agents that aren't used to writing knowledge articles, or they're not sure what to put in it. I know a lot of customers have great knowledge training programs out there to train agents on what kind of context to put in an article and what they should put in there. But training is a manual effort. So really using generative AI gets over kind of that hump of not having enough time to generate a draft article, but also kind of starting from that blank slate and kind of wondering where you should start from and what you should include in that article. So that's one thing that we wanted to hit with this first release. The next one, of course, improve self-service. So, your customers and your employees are looking through your portals. They're looking for knowledge articles. They're looking for catalog items. They want to self-serve themselves before really contacting someone and putting in an incident or maybe even picking up the phone. So really having more knowledge articles out there and available to them, and knowledge articles that really do kind of concisely speak to what an issue that your customer may be seeing is, and concisely speak to the resolution, is really going to increase that self-service. So propagation of more knowledge articles, of course, leads to improved self-service for your customers and your employees. And then overall, enhance user satisfaction, not only for your employees and your customers, but also for your agents, right? We get that increased satisfaction as your employees and your customers are finding what they need via self-service, whether it's a portal search or whether it's using virtual agent and getting articles that way. But also for your agents, right? As they're working their incidents and their cases, they're looking for relevant knowledge articles. They're looking for something to help them solve that incident or case. And the availability of articles being there helps them resolve issues quickly. It also assists in them, not really having to do redundant troubleshooting or escalate unnecessarily. So just providing the information that your agents need at their fingertips increases their satisfaction, kind of lowers their frustration as well. So those are going to be the three main benefits of this first release. You'll see those benefits change as the products change. Of course, we will continue to hit these benefits for agents and customers and employees. But as we enhance the product and hit other personas, maybe knowledge manager and knowledge admins, we'll add on benefits. So you'll see this kind of list grow and change as the product matures itself. So what to know at a high level, and I think this will answer some of these questions here. So as far as what we released in May for Now Assist in Knowledge Management, it is bundled in with our Now Assist in CSM, ITSM, and HRSD apps. So it's not a standalone app that you go into the store and you entitle. It's bundled with those kind of workflow apps. So if you are licensed for one of those workflow apps, as of Washington Patch 3, Now Assisted Knowledge Management is going to be included with it. It is a one-to-one relationship as of May. So what I mean by that is you can generate one knowledge article from one incident case or HR case. So I put the safe harbor in that because that is something that we're looking at more than likely for the August release that could be subject to change, where you can generate an article from multiple tasks. So an article from multiple incidents or cases, and we're going to use similarity and use AI search to kind of look for similar cases and incidents that can contribute to the context of that knowledge article. The third one being, as far as templates, only the standard and KCS templates are supported. So standard template is really going to be baked into mostly everybody's instances. This has been shipped since knowledge management's really been around. It's kind of our default way of making sure that you have a template in the system, and that's why we chose it. And if you're a KCS program or you've been using KCS and those templates, we are also supporting that for you as well, because we want to make sure that we continue to support our KCS program customers. Again, with the safe harbor, this is subject to change. We do want to support your custom templates and open up more templates itself. So keep an eye out for future Academy sessions and future kind of release information on when more templates will be supported. Updates to articles. So this is a question I get asked a lot as far as the capabilities. So right now, you can generate that article. It's kind of a one and done kind of thing. Once you generate the article from an incident, any kind of updates that need to be made to that article will have to be done manually by the author or maybe the ownership group member. Even if, the context later on in that incident or case changes, or maybe there's some other kind of update that you want to make to it. Right now, it will be manual. But updates are something that we are looking at on the roadmap. So keep an eye out on more information for that. And then if you are kind of poking around, let's say that you have gone through your account team, you're really kind of looking into this. You'll notice that if you have the create knowledge capability turned on, that you will see it when you have a case or an incident that doesn't have a knowledge article attached. So if you're working at this, you have to make sure that a knowledge article isn't already associated to the incident or a case in order for that button and that functionality to appear. Again, as we get feedback from customers and the product matures, this could be subject to change. But if you are looking at this and have had that question, just make sure that a knowledge article is not currently attached to the incident or the case in order for the button to show. So I think that does answer some questions. I know I had a question about, is this feature available with Knowledge Management Advanced? It is a separate feature, so it's not part of the Knowledge Management Advanced plugin. It is going to be bundled with those CSM, ITSM, and HRSD plugins itself. Another question as far as the knowledge generation feature, will it eventually target other personas? Yes, we are looking at that. So the personas that we are looking at are those knowledge manager personas. We're continuing with agent, but we are starting to branch out into that knowledge manager persona as well for knowledge article improvements, being kind of more proactive, also looking at things such as AQI and doing reviews. So that is on our roadmap and things that we are starting to explore right now. As far as licensing for Now Assist, I can't give you the details on licensing. Please contact your account team for that. But really, knowledge management, Now Assist, it's bundled in, again, with your Now Assist and CSM, ITSM, and HRC subscriptions. So if you are licensed for one of these, you will get Now Assist and knowledge management with that. But again, any kind of specifics on cost and licensing, Assist usage, and things like that, please contact your account teams because they have the most up-to-date information on that. Is the KCS template out of the box? So it is not. That's a great question as far as KCS. We do have plugins for KCS. We have them for CSM and ITSM. So they are an additional plugin that you'll have to install if you want to use that template. I will caveat that with, as far as KCS in general, we really do kind of recommend, if you are looking into KCS, to head over to the Consortium for Service Innovations website. So KCS is a methodology. While we do have features in ServiceNow to support it, it is a larger methodology. So there is more to it than just installing some plugins and turning a few things on. We have some great information out there on the community on KCS. So definitely start there. Look at that rather than kind of focusing in on the KCS template. But if you are or have already started to explore KCS and are looking into it, then yeah, those are additional plugins that you would need to install. Another great question I think we'll get to in just a little bit in the demo, but as far as workflows. So this particular question is, if you're using the KCS template, does it also work with the KCS approval workflow? So Now Assist and knowledge management, we're going to follow all of your same workflows. And we're going to follow all of your same user criteria. So in order for someone to generate an article Using Now Assist in a knowledge base, they still have to have that can contribute user criteria to that knowledge base. So that's going to remain the same at your organization. And as far as workflows, we're following the same workflows that you have on your knowledge bases already. So if you are generating an article, let's say that you have a customer service or IT knowledge base, whatever published workflow is associated to that knowledge base is going to be the workflow that we follow. With this plugin, we're simply just using generative AI to grab context from that record to generate content within the knowledge article itself. We're not overriding any kind of security or user criteria, and we're not overriding any kind of workflow steps. That's going to remain the same at your company. And I do have kind of a slide on some things to take a look at when thinking about governance in just a little bit. So that's a great question. I did want to put this slide out here for PDIs. I probably will get questions on this at the end, but PDIs, Now Assist is currently not available on PDIs. So this includes any Now Assist product, whether it's knowledge management or resolution note generation or anything like that. I would say if you are interested in this, you are interested in evaluating it, contact your account teams. They're going to be the best way to kind of get an eval instance and go through all that information. So again, with PDIs, not available currently. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but go through your account teams if you want demos and things like that for analysis and knowledge management. So some key considerations prior to implementing. I know as far as turning on knowledge generation and using generative AI, you'll see with my demo, the process is super simple. There's really not a lot to turning it on. But there's a lot that really goes into thinking about your knowledge management process and your governance prior to turning it on. I've been in a lot of customer calls and I've been in a lot of customer meetings where the main concern is if we're allowing our agents to generate articles faster and easier than ever before, we're going to have a lot of knowledge articles out there. And how do we deal with this? And the answer to that is really the governance of your knowledge management program and your knowledge bases. And that's something that you can look at before even deciding to invest in generative AI and deciding to invest in Now Assist, to really start reviewing kind of your knowledge management foundations and making sure that you're set up for success before you flip the switch, so to speak. So a few things that I want to kind of cover at a high level that you can begin looking at that we have built into the product itself is really kind of our governance pillars here. So your company probably already has this already if you've been using knowledge management for a while, if you've had a knowledge program for a while, but you may be new to this and you may be new to this in ServiceNow. But the first one being kind of your strategy and your objectives. So defining the goals for your knowledge management program, defining the KPIs that you want to measure. We have out-of-the-box dashboards for that. But also aligning your knowledge management program and your goals with your organizational goals. I know that incident deflection, right, is a big goal for ITSM, and knowledge management plays right into that. So making sure that those goals are aligned and understanding the dashboards that we have out there, understanding kind of the KPIs and the metrics that they show you. Also understanding the specific dashboards. So like ITSM has the ITSM success metrics dashboard that's out there. If you're not using that already, now is a good time to kind of look into that because it does speak to deflection. You may want to track deflection a little bit more closely now, especially before you start to turn this on. You want to have that baseline of what was our knowledge article deflection prior to turning on Now Assist, and what is it after we've made this investment in Now Assist. So really kind of digging through those dashboards, digging through what we have to offer and making sure that you have those defined and you know how to track them. Also the roles and responsibilities. So again, who's responsible for creating knowledge articles in your organization? Who's responsible for reviewing them? Do you allow your agents to author articles? A lot of customers that I speak to don't. They have specialized SMEs and they have specialized roles that generate knowledge articles. So this is something to look at if you are kind of that program where you don't allow agents to generate articles, but you want to use this. You really kind of want to define maybe groups and standards for agents who are going to start authoring articles in your organization. So your next one is your content quality and your standards. So, what is your organization's standards for knowledge article creation? What do you expect to be in these articles? What kind of formatting do you expect in your articles? Templates, I put an asterisk next to that because we only support those 2 templates right now. But kind of going forward, you will want to have templates for consistency. Consistency plays a really big key when Now Assistant AI search and virtual agent summarizes those articles. The more consistent formatting wise and kind of header wise and even language wise that your knowledge articles are, the better the large language model and generative AI can summarize those. It's just like a human in that respect. If you see a pattern to headers and you see a pattern to language, you're able to kind of distill it a lot more easily. And that's the same for generative AI. So you're going to want to kind of have those standards and those consistency standards in place prior to implementing any kind of generative AI if you want better outcomes with that. I do have an article in the community about that, which I'll post in just a little bit, but just something to kind of think about with your content quality. Also, what are your review and approval process for your articles? Are you an instant publish kind of shop? Are you an approval kind of shop? Something to kind of think about. You may still want to have your agents do instant publish for your articles, just kind of making sure you understand your processes and which ones are on your knowledge bases prior to implementing this. The next one being your article lifecycle. So kind of what are your guidelines for your reviews to keep your articles current and up to date? This is really important when you get into using things such as AI search. So AI search has kind of a relevancy score matrix where it hits on a couple different things. We have some best practices on the community specific to knowledge articles, but really the validity and how fresh your article is really increases that article and where it appears in AI search, and also where how it gets summarized. So when you're using Gen AI on the consumption side, right, the fresher your article is, the more valid it is, the more likely it's going to be summarized and included in those results, and the more likely it's going to be bumped to the top. So super important to have some kind of review process on your knowledge articles and really kind of ensuring that they're up to date. I would say if you're just getting started with this, a good rule of thumb is to look at your articles that have the highest traffic. Which ones are most viewed? Which ones are most used? Those are going to be really great candidates to kind of have maybe a 6-month review cycle on, just to make sure that your high quality articles and your high traffic articles are, reviewed and up to date. And then you can kind of use that to establish more of a cadence for maybe lower traffic articles and less used articles, and kind of go from there. And then ownership groups too are a really great best practice. It is included in the Knowledge Management Advanced plugin to reduce a lot of those bottlenecks. So bottlenecks on approvals, bottlenecks on feedback, really kind of reducing knowledge articles and that ownership from one single individual to a group of individuals. Because we know that authors can leave the company, they can transfer departments, they can just have a lot going on. And kind of having that whole article maintenance and lifecycle on one person is going to produce a lot of bottlenecks. So we introduced ownership groups a few releases back to really help with this and allow for a group to, own that article, own the approvals, own the reviews, and own the feedback on that article. And then the last two, kind of going into metrics and reporting, that really goes into your strategy and objectives. So here, just making sure you have those KPIs, you have dashboards set up, and you know how to read those dashboards and track them and communicate on them. And then training and awareness. So making sure that you have some kind of training for knowledge contributors. If you don't, now is maybe a really great time to kind of stand up a training program, especially if you are going to implement this in waves. You can really kind of narrow down that training program on the select group of agents and use them as kind of your testers and your piloters for your training program. And then a knowledge sharing culture. So really promoting a knowledge sharing culture across your organization, especially when you are getting into generating knowledge articles of Now Assist and you have more than ever before. You want to make sure that your organization knows they're there and they know how to find them and they know the importance of keeping a knowledge base up to date and how important their contributions are to the knowledge base. So these are very high level, but just some things to start thinking about before even implementing Now Assist. That way you are set up for success before you turn Now Assist on for knowledge generation. So with that, I'm going to go into the demo. I know I have a lot of questions here, and I want to go into the demo. Maybe this will answer some of those questions, and then I'll take a peek back and see what questions I did not answer within the demo. So the first thing I want to cover in the demo is really kind of the setup for knowledge generation. I'm going to go into our Now Assist admin panel. So all of our Now Assist skills and features are all configured through this Now Assist admin panel. We have an AI Academy and some different sessions out there on everything you can find within this console itself. So this would be really the one-stop shop for an admin configuring Now Assist skills and even doing some reporting on Now Assist skills. But knowledge management is going to be found underneath that. So we're going to take a look at Now Assist for ITSM today. I have the latest version. Washington Patch 3 is when it was released. So an important thing to know if you are kind of going through this and you're going through your account teams and you want to use Vancouver, it really has to be on Washington Patch 3. But if we go into ITSM or technology, that workflow, you're going to see a knowledge card here now after Washington Patch 3. And we have a knowledge skill for KB generation. I already have mine activated, but you'll go through the same flow if you want to activate it. So I'm going to go ahead and just pop into KB generation. A couple things to note. It is using our Now LLM, so our domain-specific LLM. So it's not using a third-party LLM. It's not using, OpenAI. It is using our Now LLM, which all of our Now Assist products, with the caveat of creator use. So if you had a question about that and you really want to dig deep into Now LLM and kind of everything about it and the differences, definitely check out the AI Academy, but also get with your account team. They are poised to kind of answer all those questions there on LLMs and kind of the features and specifics of that. So setup is pretty easy. We created this kind of guided setup experience within the Now Assist panel to walk you through setting everything up. For May and for this release that we're on right now, we do have some kind of guardrails and some things that are going to be read-only. Again, this is going to change in future releases. We are going to open this up more and have more configurations that you can do. But for the ITSM one, we did lock down the table to incident. We did lock down the input fields to these 5. So short description, resolution notes, work notes, and additional comments. Again, I know a lot of customers are going to want to open these up and add on their own custom fields. They're going to want to put in extended tables, things like that. So keep an eye out on the roadmap for those kind of configurations. And then here, our default knowledge base for NAP, that stands for Now Assist Panel. So the kind of the conversational interface that can be used to do different things, such as generate article, generate resolution notes. If you see NAP somewhere, that's what that refers to. For May, you do have to specify a default knowledge base. So it will create an article and automatically put it in that knowledge base. There is a difference there if you're using the buttons in like a workspace or a classic form. But just to kind of be aware, if you're using that kind of conversational interface, you do have to tell it which knowledge base you want to use. So availability, this is a really kind of important one to think about, and maybe spend some time with your knowledge team and maybe even your solution consultants kind of talking through on what you want to do with this. So you really do have a lot of control on when you want knowledge generation to be available. You can say it's always available, meaning that if your incident is new, in progress, whatever state it's in, that someone can generate an article off this. And what's really important about that is that the more context that you have within your incident, the better article you're going to get. So if you have, that long activity log, if you have those resolution notes, you're going to get a higher quality article than if you don't. So this is totally up to your workflow, but just kind of be aware if you have it always available. You may have agents generating articles on incidents that just don't have enough context. We don't have a word limit on this like some other skills do. So something to be aware of. You have the option to customize the skill availability. We put resolved and closed in here as states, kind of for best practice suggestions. They're not hard and fast rules. But like I mentioned, if you have resolution notes on an incident, you're going to get that resolution in your generated article versus when you don't. You can change this. Like I know that we have TSM customers who may want to use solution proposed. that is an option. You would want to do some testing, kind of understand what kind of notes and things are already in there when your agents are generating articles, but you can do that. And you can also add in your own fields. So anything that's really kind of on that incident table, or you can kind of dot walk as well. You have the ability to really granularly control when this skill is available. So again, something to really kind of think through, think about when you want this to be available. I'm just going to kind of keep our guardrails to resolved and closed for the demo here and make sure that I have those resolution notes in. The next thing being when this skill is available. So like all of our Now Assist products, you can really control when your agents or different personas are using the skill. In product just means the buttons that you're used to seeing in classic environment or workspace. So if you see in product, that's all that means. UI actions if you're an admin or developer and kind of think in those terms. The Now Assist panel, like I mentioned, is that conversational interface. So you do have the ability to choose where you want this. You can turn it off for everybody by toggling it off. You do also have the option of specifying roles. So this really kind of gets into that organizational change management and rolling this out in waves. You don't have to turn this on for all of your agents at once. You can create like a custom role in your instance and create a group. And then just start, onboarding your agents in groups, kind of following that group best practice. So if you want to really just kind of pilot this with a select few agents who maybe are really good at generating articles, or maybe they're not. It really depends on kind of what your outcomes are and what you want to see. You can just place those agents in that group. It'll give them the role, and you'll put the role here, and only those agents will be able to use Now Assist to generate articles. So you do have control on who sees this. You don't have to open it up for everyone. You don't have to open the floodgates. You do have a lot of control on how it's used. The same for the Now Assist panel. So again, same kind of group management strategy. You could even say that I have a lot of agents. Most of my agents are used to using those buttons. I'm going to say most of my agents can use in product, but Now Assist panel is kind of new for a lot of my agents, and I don't want to roll it out to all my agents at once. So again, I'm just going to create a custom group and start onboarding agents to this one as I see fit. So a lot of control here. Don't worry about opening the floodgates. You can really decide on how you want to onboard and adopt this functionality with your agents. And then the last step is just to kind of review and activate. So really simple. Like I mentioned, there's not a lot to turning this on. A lot of, the pre-work is just making sure that your governance is there and you're ready to report on this and know what kind of value you want to get out of this. But the configuration itself is pretty standard and straightforward. I do want to show you what it looks like, but let me see if we have any Q&A on the configuration before I get there. So I'm just going to kind of go through this. I have a lot of questions. I don't know if I'm going to get to all of these today, but let's see if I can hit a few here. Let's see. Will Now Assist be able to index other sources in case or incident to generate the article? So as of May, as of this kind of recording, it won't, but support for extended tables is something that's coming out. Really, we're gonna leave it up to our app BUs. So our app BUs, ITSM and CSM, if you hear app BUs used anywhere, really those kind of products in those areas are going to work with us closely on how they want to open this up. The knowledge management team, we're not going to decide which tables these should be created on. It really is going to make sense to kind of those products and the tables that are used in those products. So kind of keep an eye on the release notes for like Now Assist and CSM and Now Assist and ITSM to kind of understand the changes that are being made and the tables that you can use. But I know that our teams have been looking at it, and this will change in kind of a future release. Let's see. Could you explain about the knowledge button significance? I'm going to get to this in just a moment, kind of when I was talking about in products. So let's just go ahead and go to one. I did see another question about pulling in screenshots into the article. So that's a really great question. Right now, we're only going to generate plain text in the article itself. So this is subject to change, right? I will tell you that if you're looking at Now Assist and AI search and virtual agent, right now, I say that right now, and I joke a lot because this could change like in the next 2 months, the way that generative AI is going. But right now, that model can only summarize text that's in the article body or the HTML field. and it can only summarize basic styling like bold and underline and things like that. And that's really just how the model works. I know that, ChatGPT and Model 4.0 just came out with the ability to use videos and images and summarize those. So you'll see that subject to change, right? So, due to our model only being able to summarize text, we're generating text in our knowledge articles. Will that change? Of course, as generative AI changes and our models change, that will change. I don't have an estimation on when that's going to happen. That a lot of that is up to our model capabilities and our training and what the model can do. But as you've seen kind of out in the wild and out in kind of consumer use cases of ChatGPT, a couple months ago, it couldn't use images, it couldn't use videos, but now it can. So keep an eye out on that. But for right now, it is only going to use text when you're generating an article itself. So I'm just going to do let's do the end product use case just so you can see what it looks like, and then we'll do the analysis panel. So I have an incident here. This one's in progress. We'll generate some resolution notes for it in just a second. But you can see I have some back and forth on this. I have some work notes. This issue is a laptop shutting down. Looks like there was a battery issue according to all the back and forth within the activity itself. Other than that, I don't have a lot of information about it. I have kind of a short description, no description. So a lot of the context is really coming from the activity. I'm going to go ahead and resolve it and get those resolution notes in there. Before I do that, though, I did want to show you create knowledge isn't here, right? Because in those guidelines, we said that a knowledge article has to be resolved or closed in order for that ability to show. So we do need to go ahead and resolve this incident and get some resolution notes in there. I'm just going to accept what it's giving me. Best practice, as an agent, you would go through this and make edits to your generative AI kind of output and make sure that, everything looks good and it actually does resolve the issue there. And then once that's resolved, we do see the create knowledge button. So in product, that's what this means, that UI action, that button there on your workspace. We're going to go ahead and click it. And I get this modal window that asks me what kind of article I want to create. It asks me about the knowledge base. So again, every knowledge base that Beth is seeing, she has can contribute access to. So if she didn't have can contribute access, it wouldn't be here. She has contribute access to a lot. We're going to choose IT as the knowledge base here. And then the article template. Like I mentioned, we are supporting the standard and KCS article template. You won't see this unless you have those plugins installed. You will see other templates because you can still generate knowledge articles like manually without using Now Assist. So kind of an important thing to know, if you choose one of these other templates that aren't standard or KCS as of May, you won't get this pop-up to use Now Assist. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment, but just something kind of clear to kind of understand if you're wondering why one template gives you the pop-up to generate with Now Assist versus the other one doesn't. As of the May release, that is kind of the reason as to why. So in the workspace, it's going to go ahead and open kind of a new knowledge subtab for me. And now I get this modal window asking me, do I want to use AI to draft this article? It kind of gives me some basic info about what it's going to use. I can still choose to write this myself, or I can draft it with Now Assist. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And I get a couple different things here. So again, you saw kind of the context on there. I had some back and forth. Again, the more context you have, the better and more detailed article you're going to get. But generative AI did kind of summarize this for us. It made an issue, kind of header, a cause, and a resolution. So again, with generative AI, you are going to want to go through and review this article as the author. You're going to want to review that the language is correct and that the resolution is correct. It did do a few things for us, though, that generative AI is really great at, right? It kind of really put this issue in a nice paragraph. It was really succinct and to the point, which is really great when you're consuming articles. So the more kind of to the point, short context that you have in an article, the better it is to be summarized. And it is, free of typos. It is using proper grammar. It is kind of using syntax as far as English language. So it went ahead and kind of got over all that blank slate for us and typed all this up. This probably would have taken someone I don't know, let's say 5 to 10 minutes. You saw how fast it was to generate that article. It created a nice ordered list for us, which is really great. Really helps humans reading this article. But ordered lists and unordered lists are really great for generative AI when it's summarizing an article. So a great best practice to incorporate if you're, manually drafting articles, making sure your steps are readable and using ordered and unordered lists will help that summarization. And then the resolution. So it didn't look like it really kind of caught what was in my resolution notes. I've been playing with some other ones and we'll do another one as well. So this is, again, something with generative AI that you're going to have to take a look at, and you probably will have to kind of manually edit this. And, your outcomes are going to be different depending on the context that you have in your incident or case. So again, just making sure that you reviewed this article and that before you put it through your publishing process, you make those edits. I'm going to go ahead and save this off. And then I'm going to hit publish just to kind of show you guys that, when you hit publish on the IT knowledge base, I have the approval workflow. So it just follows the same workflows that you have on that knowledge base. So nothing's changed there. And it is going through approvals. If you have instant publish on your knowledge base, it's published. It's there, ready to be viewed. So something to kind of think about if you are using instant publish, do you want to maybe put a review approval publish on that? Or are your editing and your agents and your authors trained and good enough to instant publish this? Just something to kind of think about when you're generating these articles. Let's go ahead and hop to our kind of other use case. All right, so on this one, I'm going to use the analysis panel. I'm going to kind of zoom out so you guys can see everything. So this one, I've got some bad data on here. I did this on purpose. I've been a service desk agent before. I've used one-liners, and I haven't been the best in the past at documenting myself. Again, the better documentation that you have, the better article quality you're going to get. But I did this on purpose to kind of show an example of just, I don't know, something that just doesn't have a lot of context to it and kind of the results that we're going to want to get from that. So I'm going to use the analysis panel, and I'm going to say generate article and use that prompt to do it this way. And it went ahead and created that draft article for us. And I'm going to go ahead and view it. So there's a little bit of differences here. It does go ahead and create the article and kind of shows us in the view kind of pane. We are working to kind of have both in product and analysis panel kind of show you the same edit view. But just something to be aware of, if you are using the analysis panel, you do have to click edit here. But a couple things. So this one used the HTML KCS article. That's because I have KCS turned on this instance. So if you see a difference there, I've set this instance up to use KCS for my demos. But you saw in product, using the button, I could select the template itself. But if you were wondering why it used this, it's because default, I have this turned on. But you can see for this template that it did use the KCS template fields as far as issue and resolution. I did go through and use the context from the case. You saw there wasn't a lot there, but I did get actually quite a bit of context from just my bad notes here. I did, put in some steps to reproduce in there for me. I did try to put in those resolution notes. So in that case, I did put like a link to an Apple website. So, external links, we can't go out and grab this information and summarize it for you. So this would be something that someone would probably need to put the steps in for. Will that change in the future? Probably. Safe harbor. I don't have any updates on that right now, but yeah, so since I put a link there, I would need to explicitly go in and probably put those steps here. So just something to kind of be aware of when your agents are documenting cases. If they would have put the steps in from that link, it would have grabbed it. But since they just put the link in, it couldn't grab it. So something to think about when documenting, and again, with using kind of external links right now. But it did go through, it kind of put in those ordered lists. It put a lot in here, in my opinion, for the little bit of context that I gave it. Something to kind of think about when you're looking at testing this in your own instances and testing it with different incidents and cases, kind of the different contexts you have out there. And just kind of knowing some of those best practices, right? Again, the more context you have, the better resolution notes you have. If you have steps in there instead of just using external links, the more the knowledge article can pull that in and generate that information in the knowledge article itself. But also, you're always, with anything Gen AI, you're always going to want someone to come through and review this and edit this before publishing it off. I'll go ahead and hit publish here. Same kind of thing, since we are using that IT knowledge base. So I did want to take this time to kind of cover some questions. I will mention too, I showed a workspace here, but you can also do this if you're using the classic environment. So there is kind of a button there. Let me go ahead and just see if I can pop open one. I know I have a couple of minutes here. We'll see if we can just resolve one real quick, and I can show you guys what that looks like. Cool. We'll just use those resolution notes. And then in the classic, you can see that the create knowledge button is there. And then you get this pop-up, same as in a workspace, where you can draft with Now Assist. And then you can see that you are on the knowledge article page itself, but it did put in those steps. Again, this one's using that KCS template because that's my default. But yeah, you can totally do this from classic environment. It's not workspace specific. So if you are still using your classic environment forms and lists and you're not on a workspace yet, and you want to use knowledge generation, you do have the ability to do that. So with that, I did want to see if I could answer some questions, and I do have a few more slides to cover today. So I'm just going to hop into a new share. Okay, so the two article templates that are supported are going to be the KCS template and then the standard template right now. Again, keep an eye out on more updates as the store releases come out for different kind of templates that are supported. Regarding the data pool for article creation, so that's a really great question. The question is it the customer instance or all customer instances? So what the knowledge generation skill is looking at, it is looking at the context of the incidents on your instance, right? But as far as how the model is trained itself, the model is trained on a larger pool of data. So I'm not going to go into that too deeply. I would definitely say check out the generative AI portion on the community. If you want to understand more about that Now LLM and how it uses data for training, we have a lot of information about that. And I definitely don't want to misspeak because we have to make sure that we kind of communicate this clearly in such a way. So I would say check that out for the most formal an answer on how that data is used for training, especially when it applies to knowledge generation. But the context itself is used from your instance. We're not grabbing, other customers' incidents and trying to put them in yours, but just to kind of understand how that works and the differences there and kind of where to go to get that information on how the LLM model is trained itself. Another question, did you mention that it can only be used on an incident that hasn't already had a knowledge article attached? As part of our compliance checks, we looked over closed tickets, and sometimes they have an article attached when a new article can be created from them. So for May, if it has an article attached, you won't see that button appear. I would say that's some good feedback to kind of leave for us, maybe talking into your account teams in the idea portal on what you're seeing. But that is something too that we're reviewing as far as those guardrails and kind of those guidelines. So again, that could be something subject to change, but for the May release, the way that it works is that no knowledge article is attached to the incident or case or HR case currently. How do you plan to avoid duplication of content created? That's a great question. We've gotten that question from a lot of customers. That is something that's in our roadmap. So I don't have specifics on that right now. So again, version 1, right? We're just starting. Duplication is going to be something that's really going to fall in your governance processes and your reviews that you're going to need to handle kind of manually. But automating this more and doing those checks is something that's on our roadmap and something we've gotten a lot of feedback about. Can you assign the article you are drafting to another author? So we're following the same kind of rules here. Again, we're just kind of generating the article. So if you need to change the metadata, if you need to change the author or the ownership groups, you have the ability to do that. Same as if you were drafting articles manually without using generative AI. Does it generate in English only? Another great question. So Now Assist products is changing. I'd say, again, hop over to the generative AI community site on up-to-date specifics. But right now it is English only, but we are looking at multilingual support in an upcoming release. I don't have a release specific for you right now, but there is kind of tier 1 languages that we are looking at for all of our Now Assist products. That will apply to knowledge management as well, and we'll have more specifics on that. But as of today, it is English only. Let's see. So a lot more questions on duplication. So I'm going to kind of cut off the questions here. I have a lot, and I will definitely transcribe these. So please check back on the community sites on the event. Let me post that community article for you guys in the chat. I did want to put this research study out here since we did just talk about language support. This is very timely, actually. So we have a research study coming up June 17th through the 28th if you want to get involved. Let me put the link in the chat. You have this QR code here too. Let's see. Here we go. Cool. So this is with our research team. Anyone who wants to participate, if you're a knowledge author, a knowledge manager, an admin, content writer, or a service desk agent, and we're really focusing on multi-language support for knowledge management. So kind of what to expect. We really kind of want to walk through your current experience of creating and managing articles with multiple languages. We want your concerns, your questions, and your suggestions for improvement. So if you are, a customer who does manage articles in multiple languages and creates articles in multiple languages, this would be a really great research study to participate in. So again, you can scan this QR code, and I dropped the link in our chat as well. And then let me go ahead and drop the link to our, let's see, our product hub here. So here's the knowledge management product hub. Let me share it too. That way you guys can see it. So if you haven't seen this already, you may have if you've managed to get to our academy here. But we have this product hub where we do have the academy posted here. We have some best practices here. This AI search one is a real great hit. I brought on Gerard Dwan and Seamus Muhal from the AI search product success team. So they're super knowledgeable in how to set up AI search and know all the best practices. And we did a session geared towards looking at AI search from a knowledge management perspective. So this is a really great one to check out to get your, if you've turned on AI search or not, to get your knowledge articles ready and things that you should be thinking of. I have some knowledge management best practices here. You'll see different things here as far as the research invitation, where to go for FAQ and requests and getting started. KCS, I've been posting some things there too. I did want to mention kind of that best practice document that I was talking about. So if you are looking at Now Assist and you're kind of wondering like what should be in my articles to be used by generative AI, what should I start looking at? Here's some overall best practices on things that you can start thinking about for your knowledge base in your articles for when you want to start summarizing them with Gen AI. So a lot of great stuff here that, again, is subject to change as the models kind of change. But you can see I included some formatting here, some things to really kind of think about with formatting and limitations. Paragraph length. I kind of spoke to kind of a shorter, more concise paragraph that answers a question is summarized better. Some FAQs here as well. So this is a really great article to take a look at and kind of bookmark and keep up to date on this community as well. And then the last thing I want to leave everyone with before we go is if you're looking for more academies on different subjects, we do have them out there for you. So we have our Platform Academy, the platform foundations, things like upgrades, and kind of more foundational things. Workflow Academy is new. So if you're hopping in the Flow Designer or Creator Studio, looking at things like decision tables and playbooks, Workflow Academy is going to be your stop for that. It's a really great academy that has live sessions and shorts as well. So if you're looking for short videos, it's all included in that academy. Of course, our Analytics Academy has been out for a while, so kind of getting into more of those KPIs and reporting and how to do that. We got our Mobile Academy, our Next Experience Academy, and then, of course, our AI Academy. So you're looking for Now Assist and generative AI outside of knowledge management, definitely head over to the AI Academy to get more information on that. And with that, thank you everyone for attending. I hope that I answered a lot of questions and kind of showed you everything that we have available for May, and that you're up to speed on kind of what to expect if you're looking at Now Assisted Knowledge Management right now. And check back on the community in a few days, and I'll have a listing of all of those questions answered that you can use for reference going forward. And thank you everyone for joining today. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.